foundation doesn't do well. What happens is the board, nobody hustles, nobody. Are you interested in getting back on the foundation? Because I've got Larry Landry that wants to do it, and I don't know if Larry's going to get reappointed.
You know, if you got
Good morning. We'll call this meeting to order. If you'll please rise for the... We have Pastor Ernst from the Manzanita Baptist Church. Please join us in prayer.
Thank you. Shall we pray? Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you on behalf of all those who are gathered here today for your many abundant blessings and mercies that are new to us every morning. Great is your faithfulness. Thank you for the freedoms afforded to us in this great land, and thank you for those who have gone before us to grant to us our freedoms and personal liberties. Thank you as well for those who have given us their very lives to ensure us our freedoms. And we've been granted a great gift today. Help us to use it wisely. Remind us that to whom much is given, much will be required. Father God, we are grateful for the moral compass that you've engraved on every human heart. Help us to seek to find the truth, to know it, and then give us the moral courage to live it out. So help us, God. In the Holy Scriptures, you've said that citizens ought to pray for and honor those who are over us in authority, knowing that to you they will give an account one day. We are admonished to obey our governing authorities, since you have established those very authorities to promote peace, order, and justice. Therefore, we pray for these county supervisors individually. We pray for their families, their homes, and places of business, and corporately, that wise and careful decisions will be agreed on this day. We pray for wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times. We pray for a sense of the welfare and true needs of our people in Mohave County. We pray for a keen thirst for justice, rightness, and confidence in what is good and fitting. And we pray for an ability to work together in harmony, even when there is honest disagreement. And we pray for personal peace in their lives and joy in their tasks. We understand that their job can be a thankless one at times, and that to attempt to please all the people all the time will ensure that all the people will not be pleased. Give them moral courage and stamina to stand for what's right, no matter the cost. I pray for the agenda set before them today. Give them wisdom and agreement of what is good and right. And Lord, would you please give them an assurance of what you would please you, and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved county. It's in your most precious, beloved name, Jesus Christ, we pray this. Amen.
Amen. You'll follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Supervisor Johnson, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Chair would entertain a motion to go into executive session at the October 7th, 2013 meeting at 9 a.m.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Supervisor Brotherton. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carried. Do we have committee or legislative reports? Committee or legislative reports?
No, I have a couple, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Johnson, please go ahead.
It was Building Vibrant Local Economies. NACO recently sponsored a webinar on rural economic development, which was particularly interesting and relevant to Mohave County. The webinar provided an rural economic development approaches and strategies. Eric Page, consultant and policy development agency in Arlington, Virginia, known as Entry Works, spoke about this company's collaboration with the Appalachian Regional Commission on Research Projects in regards to economic development diversity. While the study is not complete, so far the results show that poorest counties had the less diversity. The research so far has also shown the more diverse regions have a heavy reliance on the extraction of minerals, such as coal, oil, gas, or in our case, uranium. Mr. Page gave some examples of many diverse, inspired strategies counties can take to become more diversified and build on their economic development. Some of the ways were to invest in sites, buildings, and infrastructure to focus activities other than the traditional economic development, and to improve connectivity with other major metropolitan areas and leverage anchor institutions such as university. Also, we participated in a converting biogas into vehicle fuel. The President, Jan Scott, of Unison Solutions, the webinar went over biogas and how technology can turn biogas into a usable transportation fuel. Today, a regular gallon of gas can cost upwards of $3.50 per gallon, whereas biofuel gas can cost around $1.15. Right now, the federal government is offering RIN credits, to basically a negative tax for each gallon of renewable fuel that is introduced into the U.S. commerce. Only biogas used as a renewable transportation fuels can generate these credits. They're kind of similar to a carbon credit exchange brokers. During the webinar, Mr. Scott gave a short presentation on his company, BioSend Systems, which can install very easily for use by county public works department. These systems are very small in size, covering about 40 by 40 section. There are many add-ons you can get, including a heat trace and insulation for weather months, electrical panels for water cooling, and electricity savings and skid enclosures. Mr. Scott also gave multiple examples of counties and cities around the U.S. who are using the system. Rodefeld Landfill in Dane County, Wisconsin, is currently using the system for 19 county vehicles. They have a solid waste landfill disposal rate of 175 tons per day, 1,600 cubic foot of biogas is collected from the site. Cost of the project can vary, but currently it costs an equivalent of $1 per gallon for gasoline to operate and maintain the BioSense system. From there, one will receive a 50-cent gasoline credit, making the actual cost 50 cents a gallon. It is estimated the county would save $60,000 a year on the price of fuel, which current gas prices at $3.50, and then they use the $60,000 and go to offset capital investments. Also, Robert Wiener, who we have helping us in D.C., wants to let everybody know that the House Majority Leader has sent out an alert. The Sierra and everybody else is pushing, and they have hearings on H.R. 1526, Restoring Healthy Forests and Healthy Communities Act, which Supervisor Watson has been in the forefront of that, and we need to contact our people because they're trying to kill that again at this time. Also, Jerry Hillier from Quad State went back to D.C. to represent us on our pill payments. He was back there. From CSA were also there too. And then Bill Lamb, who's another one of our staff on Quad State, he attended the Southern Regional RAC meeting in Las Vegas. That's the Resource Advisory Council on September 12th. He's been covering, needs to stay in touch with BLM and see how they're moving ahead with a variety of program initiatives such as the Tortoise RITS and the eco-regional assessment and others. I'll give you the summary I've got written down. While they address the RIT work, it seems they did not ask for the RAC for advice on proceeding or even for input. It makes you wonder why they call them an advisory when the agency basically just gives progress status reports. It met without a local government representative present, but since it appears they didn't ask for advice, it probably is not worth raising the question. I think we need to watch these. Arizona recently met without a local government representative there also. His report is as follows. On Thursday, September 12th, he attended the Southern Mohave Great Basin Resource Advisory Council meeting in Las Vegas, BLM District Office. The RAC represents BLM, Southern Nevada District, Battle Mountain District, and the Eli District. The district managers and field managers attended the meeting. The RAC covers a geographic area approximately coinciding with Southern Nevada Basin and Range, the Sonoran Basin and Range, your land resources areas, Esmeralda, Nye, Lincoln, Clark counties, Nevada. They meet 3 or 4 times a year. They talked about fire. Each managers gave a report on wildlife activities, indicating that even though it has been a dry year and more wildfires have been started, the acres burned has been less than average. None of the burned areas require rehabilitation. Rosemary, which is one of the people attending, stated that batch now located in several areas will be reviewed to reduce the number and cost of operations. This decision is to be made sometime this calendar year. The fuels program, they said that a tour was recently conducted with Western Watersheds to determine how best to manage the land for sage-grouse habitat. They looked at pressed wheat seedings that were done 50 years ago, and nearly all have reverted back to sagebrush over time. Western Watershed does not encourage the use of crested wheat in the future because it takes too long to revert back to the native habitat. They would rather see cheatgrass in the area that wheatgrass because it can be converted faster than perennial plants. There's also potential for a biomass company to use the pinyon juniper to generate electricity. This would remove the trees and allow sagebrush to move in and improve the sage-grouse habitat. This is in the very early stages of determining if a biomass effort would be profitable. The fire community is making an effort to construct fuel breaks that have been very beneficial in controlling wildfire around the populated areas. The sage-grouse, the greater sage-grouse listing, which is pending, BLM is in the process of completing an EIS to amend their RMPs within sage-grouse habitats. The public comment period for the EIS will be published on October 11th and will end January 11th. After all comments have been considered and included in the draft EIS, the final will be completed on May 30th, 2014, and the record of decision will be in the fall of 2014. The Desert Tortoise Recovery Plan, they did a PowerPoint slideshow. It was given by the RAC members on what is being done to protect and enhance both tortoise and their habitat. It presented ways to reduce or eliminate threats from off-highway vehicles by closing areas, withdrawing settlement, sale locations, entry or mining patents, habitual habitat restoration, fire breaks, education, and fencing. With the DTCC, that's that area they had up in Las Vegas for the holding of the tortoises being shut down due to lack of funding, some 700 tortoises will be translocated to Trout Creek or Canyon. I asked what will happen to the DTCC, and the BLM is contacting all agencies or private groups and asking if they would or manage the center. The gentleman with Senator Reed's office in attendance at the meeting asked who he should refer individuals or group to if they have an interest. They indicated that no one has shown an interest in managing the center at this time, so it looks like that'll be shut down. Public comment, I had some OHV activists. The BLM made available areas where OHV events could be held. Currently, BLM and the OHV use has been restricted or limited to a point where these events cannot be conducted. There seemed to be a common feeling from the council that something should be done to accommodate that use. The planning subcommittees are very active and meet several times a year to provide advice and recommendations to BLM. They're asking to vote on allowing target ranges. Shooting is not a problem, but there's a need to clean up the trash that accumulates in those areas, and they're looking for sponsors for a cleanup of that. That's pretty much it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Johnson. Also, are you going to be on a NACO steering committee this year, this next year?
At this time, I believe I'm just on to the Cyber Task Force and the EELU.
Okay, thank you. And I'd like to report to our board that I'll be representing the Environmental, Energy, and Land Use Steering Committee for NACO for the 2013-2014 term. Any other reports? On to the County Administrator's report.
Nothing this morning, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Now we have the approval of the August 26, 2013 Board of Supervisors public hearing minutes. Chair would entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion. I'll second the motion to approve the minutes for August 26, 2013. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. This morning, this is the usual time that we have a call to the public. I see there are no requests for speak on call to the Republic, but I do want to double check. Anyone wishing to speak at this moment at call to the public? Okay, great, thank you. Before we move into the Affordable Care Act presentation, I'd like to take this time to present an award to the Mohave Museum of History and Arts, and for their efforts to make sure that our records from years and years ago have been properly stored and were taken care of. And these records go all the way back to 1864, I believe. So. Kind of want to fall in behind the big picture. Robert, you want to come on down and have a little bit of an explanation? Okay? Oh, he sent you. Chairman of the board. I see. Well, go ahead and fill us in a little bit, Bob, if you will.
Morning, everyone. Chairman, board member, staff. Became aware that the Mohave Museum of History and Arts had been responsible enough in the county's time of need in years past provide us storage and protection of some records that were very historical in nature, approximately 400 books. When we became aware of it, we wanted to do the right thing and make sure that as proper custodians, we get those back in our hands and care and provide for them. So we're here today just to show appreciation and thanks to the Mohave Museum of History and Arts.
Well, Bill Porter, I'm sorry, Porter, president of the, or director, chairman, or of the board. Our appreciation and thank you for keeping the records, and I'll get credit for a little bit of a picture.
Here, everybody look here. Yeah, there you go. And everybody look over here, please. We're gonna do one more here. Maybe one more, that's it. There you go. Thank you.
And I would be remiss if I didn't offer you a couple of minutes.
You know, I'm a lawyer, 2 minutes is really big.
I never turn it down. Sure, certainly, go ahead. Sure.
There's more of a story here than you know, and maybe more than what I should confess to. But there was a little bit of theft involved in this. And this is one of the problems with my having been on the board of that museum and the Arizona and the Mohave County Historical Society. Actually, I think this is my 36th year, which kind of scares me, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to go into a glass case as an exhibit before long. But probably about almost a quarter of a century ago, we became aware through some of our little spies who were out digging around at the airport that there was a large amount of material that looked historically important just lying out there in a hangar. A dusty, hot hangar with absolutely no climatic controls, no protection, not even well boxed or covered up. And so we sent a raiding party out to take a look, and we found all of these books. Not only that, we found several thousand maps, important mining maps, and we just could not allow that. I mean, it went against our grain too much. So with no authority whatsoever, we took them into our care and took them back, and we started working on them. And you might want to know that the Mohave County Historical Society is pretty much in the forefront of a lot of the technology that's going on in the history world today. And that's not an accident. That was done intentionally. Every bit of the information in all of those books is now in our computers, digitized and easily researched. Those maps have been carefully digitized. All of the data relating to the history of mining claims going all the way back, like Gary said, all the way back into the 19th century are now in our system, digitized. You don't have to go to those maps. You don't have to go to those books. And we have researchers showing up from all over the country doing research on various objects, things that touch on those, and they're always amazed when they get a chance to see those. I will be honest, we were rather happy when you guys asked to have the books back because they were taking up a lot of storage space, and we were indeed keeping them in the proper climate and in the proper control to keep them as almost like they were when we got them a quarter of a century ago. And that's sort of what we do. We're glad to have done it, and we appreciate the recognition. Thank you.
Thank you. One more indicator of the progress that Mohave County is making, and I'm sure that many people look upon those projects with a great deal of desire to make sure that they copy those. Thank you again, Bill, and the dedication of Mohave Museum. Okay, our next presentation is the Affordable Care Act. Morning, Sue. Good morning.
Good morning. Chairman Watson, Supervisor Moss, Supervisor Brotherton, Supervisor Angus, and Supervisor Johnson on the telephone. Thank you for giving me this few short minutes and this venue to get this information out to the public. The wait is finally over, I think. In the next few weeks and months, the remaining pieces of Obamacare will supposedly fall into place. On January 1st, just about everyone must have health insurance, some with government help if they sorely need it, or face a penalty. Everyone must be able to get coverage no matter how sick you are. Because there is enormous uncertainty on the part of citizens on what to expect, and a lot of questions, today I'm going to provide you with what is at least true today for some simple steps for the public to know. Currently, as individuals, we have several options to get health insurance. We can purchase it on our own or go through an insurance agent or get it with your employer, as we do here in Mohave County as the county. You can also get it through Medicaid. And now, starting October 1st, you will be able to get it through the health insurance marketplace. This is a new way to find health coverage. There will be one application. It will help you to see if you qualify for lower costs. It will provide you with all the health plans available in your area. It will first see if you qualify for Access or Medicaid or the Children's Insurance Health Program, which is called CHIP, and then it will help you to enroll. If you can't figure it out online, if you're not an IT-savvy person, you can get help on a telephone number, a toll-free number, or you can get help in person with the help of a navigator. Open enrollment starts October 1st. All the plans and all the prices will be available then, but not before. Coverage will start as soon as January 1st, and if you're not enrolled by March 31st, you'll have to wait for open enrollment again. And you will be eligible then supposedly for fines through the IRS. How do you do this? Well, you can go, if you're computer savvy and you have a computer, or you can go to the library that's going to have computers available for this. You can go to www.healthcare.gov. That's where you'll find the application, and that will supposedly find online help. There's also a toll-free number where you can call and enroll and also get help. And if those options don't work for you or you're just confused still, you can find navigators, which are people that have been specially trained to give you assistance to enroll in one of these health plans. And they're available at North Country Health Centers, which we have an office here in Kingman, one in Bullhead, and one in Lake Havasu. we've also, the health department's also done a handout that I provided each of you, just a small number of copies so that you can have them available in your office for your constituents. But we're hoping that this will help to simplify this so that the public knows what they need to do starting October 1st. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Any questions we have?
Patty, I have a question, real quick.
Sure.
The application that people have to fill out, is it a big application? Is it?
It's
have
a
you
couple of
seen it?
pages, yes. It's a couple of pages. They need to have, the best thing to do is to go on to healthcare.gov and see what the application involves, but it does require you to have some information ahead of time. You're going to have your social security number and some things like that, because all of these computer systems are supposedly supposed to hook up and be ready to link information on October 1st.
Okay, thank you.
I hope all of this works October 1st, otherwise we're going to have even more confusion, but it's a fairly simple application, but there's going to be a lot of people that are going to need help, I think, in choosing the health care plan that works best for them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patty. Okay, next we have the consent agenda, items 5 through 25, which will be voted on in one motion. We will see if Supervisor Johnson, do you have anything to pull off consent?
No, I don't, sir.
Supervisor Angus?
No.
Supervisor Brotherton?
No.
Supervisor Moss?
No.
Okay, Chair would entertain a motion on the consent agenda for items 5 through 25.
I move that we approve items 5 to 25 on the consent agenda.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second from Supervisor Johnson, or Brotherton, I'm sorry. Any further discussion? There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carried. Item number 26. Discussion, possible action for the implementation of the NACO prescription discount card program for the residents of Mohave County. This agreement is for an initial term of 5 years from the effective date and to continue for the successive one-year terms thereafter, subject to the provisions of the agreement. This has been continued by the board from the September 3rd meeting 2 weeks ago, and I believe Supervisor Brotherton, would you like to make comment on that?
Yes, I would. This has been approved by the board. However, there was a word in there, it said it was approved for the employees of Mohave County. And actually, it was for the entire county, all of the community of Mohave County, including the employees. So it was sent back to Mr. Ekstrom, to our legal counsel, and that was changed, and that's the reason that it's on the agenda today. Just a simple change in it's for the entire county.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman? So if it's for the entire county, how do they get these cards? Do they have to come and request them, or?
Yes, there is a little application, I believe Human Resources has them at this point in time. Do you, Mr. Asuna? Okay, and they can just pick them up, very simple to, just pick them up and take them with you. They're very simple to fill out. And I think it tells you where to send them back in, or if not, they can bring them back to Human Resources or to the county. Okay, come on up, Ray.
I suppose we ought to have a motion for discussion.
I move for discussion on item 26 of the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Supervisor Angus for discussion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Good morning. Mr. Chairman, Supervisors, Supervisor Brotherton, just to clarify my answer in terms of the availability of the card, certainly residents can come into our department. We'll facilitate getting them a card, but also the most convenient way is for people that have access to the internet to go on the NACO site and actually fill it out and print it out. Now, if they can't do that, they can come into our department, they can go into the libraries, but as we get the word out to our residents and our employees, we will give them all the options to print out the card. One of my staff went on the NACO's actually on the Maricopa County site, and it was very easy to print it out. So we'll put together a similar Mohave County NACO RX card application. It's very simple, but as we get the word out through various means to our residents, we will tell them the way they can access the card.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sin. All right, Chair will entertain a motion for the possible implementation.
I move that we improve the implementation of the NACO prescription discount card program for all residents in Mohave County.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second by Supervisor Brotherton. Discussion? There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Item number 27, discussion and possible action regarding as to whether or not Mohave County is to become a cooperating agency on the Mexican Wolf Recovery Program, and if the board chooses to accept that role for the county, authorize the chairman to sign the memorandum of understanding. Motion for discussion?
I move that we discuss item 27 of the agenda.
I'll second the motion. We have a motion and a second for discussion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Supervisor Moss.
I read through the materials, Mr. Chairman, and I had a couple questions for legal staff, just so my understanding is correct, if I can pose them to Mr. Taylor. It's my understanding, looking through the materials, that becoming a cooperating agency does not limit, neither the federal government's legal rights are limited and our legal rights are not limited, so we're free to do whatever we like when it comes to hiring experts and whatnot, and it's up to the federal government to decide whether they want to take the information we're providing them. Is that correct?
Supervisor Moss, that is correct. By becoming a cooperating agency, we do not lose the right to either support or oppose certain elements of the program.
So if I'm just posing a hypothetical here, if we were to look into some of the concerns that have been voiced at prior open meetings on this issue as to the purity of the wolf that's roaming in the wild right now, as to whether it's a purebred wolf or something else, we could hire a geneticist to collect samples, discarded samples from the creature that's in the wild, as opposed to the known pure wolves which are on display, for example, their hair samples, things like that, in order to compare the two, and then present that data to the federal government.
Supervisor Moss, that is correct. You would have the ability to do it as a body, or you could request the federal government to take that action itself. Whether or not they will be bound to honor that request is another issue.
Or whether they'd actually share their data with us is another issue.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. That's a, and would there anything, I saw there was a concern regarding costs within the memorandum of understanding. Is there anything which would prevent our county from banding together with other counties who may be interested in sharing in these costs in order to minimize them, get the same result, but hiring one geneticist, for example, and share the cost among multiple counties?
Supervisor Moss, that sounds to be like a very practical way for the counties that have the same concerns to band together and present their stuff in an more economical way.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's all I have.
I have a question.
Supervisor Brotherton.
Okay, in everything that I've studied and read about this, signing that memorandum of understanding doesn't give us any more rights than not signing it.
Supervisor Brotherton, that's correct. It's
Okay. I still have a real problem with some of the wording in that MOU. And I think that probably, in view of some of the other stands that we've taken on certain issues with the federal government, I think that we should hold out for being a coordinating entity or nothing at all, because I'm not sure that it's going to make a bit of difference. That's my comment.
I'd like to take this moment to look at the program in the when we sign a memorandum of understanding, that gives the county to be effectively at the table with discussion. If Mohave County is not a cooperating agency and we don't have a memorandum of understanding, then actually we lose that right to have that significant input back and forth. And I can guarantee you from experience in the uranium mining issue and the experience that we've had with the tortoise issue, it's incumbent upon Mohave County to be at the table. And I certainly understand your position on a coordinating agency. And believe me, if we could just write the word coordinating and take cooperating out, I would be thoroughly convinced that that would be the right thing to do. But at the current time, those are not an option. But I believe it is incumbent upon Mohave County to become involved and be recognized at the table as a coordinating agency. That's really all I have. Supervisor Brotherton?
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Supervisor Mott?
This is just I've never had experience with coordinating agencies versus cooperating agencies, so I don't know Supervisor Brotherton or Supervisor Watson about that. But I do know that we as a county have really three options before us on this WOOF issue. One, we could do nothing and just let the federal government do what it's want. Second, we could be the outsider looking in and threaten litigation and everything else. Or thirdly, we could be at the table discussing the issue with them and giving whatever data our geneticists and biologists and legal counsel may give us in an attempt to influence the end result. And from my perspective, and this is just my sole perspective and with having no experience in this area, if we, number one, doing nothing really isn't an option for either the residents of Mohave County or the residents of Northern Arizona as a whole. So we really are stuck with numbers 2 and 3 in order to maximize the possibility that we obtain a favorable and positive result for our residents. I think we should keep both 2 and 3 on the table, which means that we become a cooperating agency, we communicate with them, we engage in the flow of information and knowledge, and if we believe something wrong is going on and that science and law is being ignored, and then we consider the harder-nosed option, which is that we'll take them to court if we have to. That was what it boils down to, in my opinion.
Thank you,
I have one
Supervisor
more
Mott.
comment, please.
Supervisor Brotherton?
Okay. Signing, in spite of all that is said and portrayed to us, signing that MOU does not give us any more right at the table than not signing it. And what happens when a county signs it, they take it to Washington with them and say, we've got all of these counties cooperating with us. And this is what we want to do, and they're going to cooperate. So I'm very much against it. I'm very much against signing the MOU. They can say that. We won't have a place at the table, but we will have just as much right at the table without signing it as we would signing it.
Supervisor Angus?
Okay, and like Supervisor Musk said, this is a new thing for us to be learning about, and I've heard many different things. Unfortunately, this is what we're presented, cooperating agency. Like I told someone, if there was a category, a hostile agency, that was what we'd be there already. But this is what we have. And so I'm going to ask those who've been through this process before. I know Supervisor Johnson with the uranium mining. I would like your opinion as to, does this give us more latitude? Does it give us more say? Or is it sort of just for show? Or what does it really do?
My preference, like on the item I have, is coordinating. Because in coordinating, they have to. They're required to listen to us, and we can do all of our own research, and they have to take it into consideration, and they have to, like we demanded, that they show up to appear in front of our board that was formed to answer questions. So the stronger one is coordinating. It gives you, in my opinion, a stronger seat at the table, and it helps if there is a lawsuit farther down the road. But whatever the board chooses, I'll go along with.
Can you be both? Can you be a cooperating and a coordinating?
No, I don't believe so. I mean, or the county attorney would have to answer that. I don't believe so. You might be able to move from cooperating to coordinating, but that I can't answer.
Mr. Taylor?
Without a lot of, Supervisor Watson, without a lot of experience in this area, I would feel that you can't simultaneously be both, but that there is a possibility to change your status during the course of the program.
Mr. Hunt?
Mr. Chairman, if I may say that if the board chooses to become either a cooperating agency or coordinating agency, we do have the option to negotiate on the MOU. We don't have to take it the way it is. I've been involved with several of these cases over the years, and what the county has done always went back and negotiated the terms of the MOU. Right now, we don't have a very good MOU in front of us. They grouped us in with other counties, and they just want to give something that would not really benefit Mohave County. And if at least, I would recommend that if the board chooses to consider the MOU, to go back and negotiate on it. And there's a few items definitely we want to take out where they ask in the county to offer our resources and offer our time, and that should be taken out, and it should be our choosing how much we participate and in what manner. And the other thing, the way I understand the MOU process and the statute, and Bob can maybe affirm that the county has an option, actually, if it poses within the participating agency status, we have an option, if we totally disagree with everything, to have our experts and prepare our own EIS and present it as a competing EIS. And that could be done cooperating with other counties, hiring an expert, pulling our resources, and then, towards the end, we totally disagree and we present our competing EIS. That would be possible within the EIS process. I just wanted to put that in the table. If the board chooses to continue with the MOU, I would strongly recommend that we look at it, staff and also legal counsel, and renegotiate it, get a better MOU for the county.
May I, Mr. Chairman?
Supervisor Mott?
Supervisor Johnson, is there value to being a cooperating agency, assuming that we go back to the table to the federal government and they say, no, we're not going to grant you coordinating agency status? In your experience, is there value to being simply a cooperating agency?
No, it came out of D.C., I have to look it up again, but they cannot deny us coordination status. And it gives us a bigger, we become a bigger player, and that's what got us a seat at the table in the lawsuit. Well, there's a few other things. Obviously, the land had to be in our area and all that, but then we are a full partner. We're equal partners, we don't have to be on the same side. Or we could be coordinating and be agreeing with them. Coordinating just says they must listen to us, and they cannot deny coordination. And they kind of kept it hidden from us for a lot of years. I can't remember the year that this came out, when the status was given to counties to become coordinating. But it gives us a bigger hammer. It puts us at the table, and it's in my opinion, it's stronger, and that's what gets us to court if we want to go that way.
Yeah, just for your information, the year of that federal action was 1976.
Thank you.
Well, should we direct this back to staff to go over the MOU and see what it would take to become a coordinating agency right now?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Angus, yeah, I would welcome that if you want to direct staff, we would go back to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and renegotiate a better MOU, working with legal staff that we could bring in front of you.
May I, Mr. Chairman?
Supervisor Mott?
Is there anything stopping us under the current language on the agenda to direct staff both to go back to U.S. Game and Fish to seek coordinating agency status, in addition to directing staff to cooperate or coordinate with the other counties regarding pooling of resources to protect our common interests?
I think that's the way it was put together. That was my intent for it to be put together that way.
Well,
One more comment.
Supervisor Johnson?
what Supervisor Moss brings up is a good point. One thing is a lot of counties aren't familiar with coordination because we're one of the few that's ever, flexed our muscle into it. And there also is, you might look, there's a timeline. We can't wait till after they've done a lot and then, now we want to be coordinating, so we need to look at the timeline so we don't run out of that if that's the way the board would like to go.
That's correct. If we're going to take an action, it needs to be done within the next 2 weeks. Supervisor Brotherton.
I have one more comment. There's only one way to get them to recognize you as a coordinating entity, and that's to not take no for an answer. You say, this is what we're going to be, and you take the stand and you don't back down on it. And there's several counties already in the state of Arizona that is taking this stand. And all of us need to do this together and show that we're in this together and we're not going to take no for an answer.
Thank you. Supervisor Brotherton.
With your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Certainly.
I move that we direct this item back to staff so they can engage with the appropriate authorities on an expedited basis to revise the memorandum in order to grant Mohave County coordinating entity status while simultaneously engaging with the other affected counties as to pooling of resources, both for scientific and technical expertise in addition to legal funding.
I'll second for discussion.
Yes, we have a second by Supervisor Johnson.
The only discussion I have, Mr. Chair, Supervisor Moss, would you like to have, if Supervisor Watson's saying we have a 2-week window to call a voice meeting or a meeting ahead of time if timeline's quicker?
I would do that. So I'll amend my motion with permission to restate exactly what I said a few moments ago, with the addition that we would like staff to report back to us with an answer from the appropriate authorities within the next 2 weeks.
And I'll second that.
And we have a second from Supervisor Johnson. Thank you. Any further discussion? There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed?
No.
Motion carried. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce to you a friend of mine from the County Supervisors Association, our distinguished past supervisor from Pinal County, Brian Martin. And he's today going to give us a presentation on the state Parks Department, a little bit of the funding history and kind of the direction that his operation would like to go, and also help us with our SLIP funds. Welcome, past Supervisor Martin.
Mr. Chairman, it is an honor and a pleasure always to be before my fellow county supervisors. I thank you for the opportunity, and a shout out to Mr. Johnson. Wherever you are, Buster, it's always a pleasure. The topic that's on your agenda today has to do with SLIF, State Lake Improvement Funds. And there's been a lot of talk right now on SLIF and what the monies actually go to. And I'm going to give you an overview of the role that State Lake Improvement Funds plays with state parks. Eventually, you'll make a decision one way or the other on whether you're going to lobby through NACO or through your legislators to have SLIF reappropriated for the use in grants as it was originally designed. So I will hustle through this presentation, and then we'll talk about some kinds of questions. And again, my role is just to demonstrate the value that SLIF is right now to the state of Arizona and Arizona State Parks. And there we go. Very quickly, well, this is your sequence, the mission, the situation, some of our accomplishments, the plans, our budget, and that will address SLIF, and then kind of the way ahead. And as you look at the pictures that are here, I challenge you to try to figure out which state park that's at. Our mission at state parks, our number one mission, we're a resource protection agency. We've been given 29 specific properties, both historic and natural, that we've been charged with the legislature to protect. We are a resource protection agency, our number one. Our number two mission, we're to provide public access to those resources, and we never do number two at the expense of number one, meaning you can overlove a resource. We actively manage all our resources. And our number three mission, the number one mission in 1957 when we were established, is we are an economic driver for rural Arizona. We represent over $266 million a year in the economies of rural Arizona. And there are currently no state parks in Maricopa County. So we are designed for places just like this. All your state parks are open. If there's a lesson to be learned out there for anybody conducting a business or doing anything, never, never, never close one of your businesses. It was easy to close a business at the time. It's taken years to let the public know that our business is open. Our parks are open. Our morale is improving dramatically. We're one of only 3 state park systems that are not on the state's general fund. That's significant. The general funds, you put your money where those things are important, and given the situation, I completely understand our lawmakers. When you have cops and kids and courts, state parks is way down on the list, and we do not make the general fund cut. In 2007, we had an $81 million budget with 420 full-time employees. Today, our budget's $21.5 million. I have 154 full-time employees. When the state took the general fund away from us, they supplanted that with SLIF. We were like, we can't do this. You just cannot get there from here. And the legislature said, you'll use SLIF instead of general funds. And that's what we've been doing. We are continuing to explore business models to try to figure out how to fund the entire agency, meaning the revenues that we bring in will support our entire operation. I will tell you there are no state park systems in the country that currently do that. There have been a number of operational accomplishments. I'm not going to go over all of them. I will point out the middle picture there. One might recognize that as Lake Havasu State Park. When I got out to the Lake Havasu, and I've been in this job about a year and a half, it was obvious that we had not been taking care of that particular park and making it as people didn't really want to go there. The brush, we had overgrown brush, and I said we need to do something to improve our image at this park. And one of the things that we could do quickly was to clear the beach and put some white sand on it. I will tell you today, and since we've had white sand on the beach for about a year, our attendance has increased by over 18%. The Lake Havasu CVB uses the white sand as their major draw to Lake Havasu, more than the London Bridge right now. So it's interesting what a little bit of white sand will do on the beach, and the LA Times has referred to the white sand beaches of Lake Havasu, the Caribbean of the desert. So we're very happy about that. And we have continued improvements throughout all our parks. Again, changes that you can see and those that are cost effective. Administratively, we kind of cleaned house a little bit. We were a little top-heavy. Some longtime organizations tend to get that way, so we took out some of our deputy directors and increased our revenue funding based on those vacancy savings. We improved our relationships with the OHV community, off-highway vehicle community, that was broken. And I will tell you that the OHV community, almost to a person, is very pleased with the direction that we're headed, and I'm very happy about that. We've decided to engage a federal lobbyist. As Mr. Johnson well knows, Washington is where they keep the money, and for an agency that has over $15 million in unfunded EPA mandates, you've got to go back to Washington and plead your case and demonstrate your value added and go find that money to help out with these unfunded EPA mandates among the other priorities that we have. We also have to deal with personnel reform at the state level. That changed the way we operate. We also hired a grant administrator, again seeking funds, a grant administrator instead of a grant writer. A grant writer, you can write maybe 2 grants at a time. A grant administrator, you can actually hire out the writers, and we can manage 4 and 5 grants at a time. The administrator would be the CAT herder, the grant herder, as it is. We've also conducted a number of analysis of our operations from top to bottom. The SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We engaged all of our users, including our volunteers and our friends and our partner agencies. What are we doing well, and what can we do better? We've also had an employee survey, and we improved our communication with the addition of an employee suggestion box. Seems like a pretty simple thing, but we did not have a way to communicate with our employees anonymously. And of course, as a former Pinal County supervisor, that seemed like a no-brainer, and so we got that going. On the administrative side, we were able to work with the legislature last year. They took $1 million out of the interest on the rainy day fund, and they gave $1 million to parks and $1 million to the arts. We've taken that $1 million, and we are electrifying campgrounds at Lake Havasu, Lost Dutchman State Park, and Catalina State Park. We will turn that $1 million into more than $3 million in the next 5 to 10 years. So taking the money that we get from there, which was a gift, pretty much, we weren't expecting it, and we've demonstrated, you give us a little bit of money and we will turn it into a lot of money. We continue to partner with our communities. As you well know, we partner with Yuma. The city of Yuma actually runs two of our state parks there. The Historical Society runs our park in Yuma. We receive some monies from the Hopi tribe to run Mohave, which is outside of Winslow, to the tune of over $50,000 a year. I will tell you, it used to be $175,000 a year, and we appreciate those partnerships, but as the wheels we get our feet underneath us, that was a great measure to take, to ask for $50,000. And I always say for the Hopi out there who do not have a casino, that is real money, and we're very appreciative of that. Again, when we come into an agency as a military background, doing all those things to improve morale. When I first got to the agency, I'd go into a park and I'd see 5 Rangers in 5 different uniforms, and I'd think I was on a Navy base. So one of the things we did was we identified that a consistent image was important, not only to our customers, but also to our Rangers and their morale. So we've invested in new uniforms. We haven't had new uniforms in more than 20 years. And we've taken away, they used to receive a monthly uniform allowance, $40 a month, which oftentimes is utilized for important things like food, daycare, or beer. Now we utilize that to invest, and we have a uniform allowance, and when a piece of equipment wears out, they get a new piece of equipment, and that way we ensure we have quality uniforms and that consistent image throughout all our parks. We continue to spread the word. We continue to send our message, and I appreciate this opportunity. I speak at Rotaries and chambers and all over the state, talking about the accomplishments of state parks and the value added and why they are important to rural Arizona and what they do for our state and for our customers. We average over 2.5 million customers a year, and more than 1 million of those customers are from out of the state. And a large number of those are actually from out of the country. So we are the face of Arizona for many, many people who show up here. Very aggressively looking for new ways to raise revenues. I want to get off of SLIF. SLIF was designed for the boating community. I want to wean us off of that fund, make no mistake. I have to figure out how to cover that gap. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we go on here. You've got some things in front of you that we are continuing to explore. Everything from an investment guide, a book that lays out with a picture and a comment and a price tag. And I was hustling it in Washington about 2 months ago to our congressional delegation, laying out the things that we needed. Mostly our EPA unfunded mandates, but it also included things like a $6 million water line at Karchner. Nobody's got $6 million. Well, that falls out of people's pockets in Washington, even though they don't have it. But as we look for ways to keep our parks moving, we hit up our congressional delegation and argue our value-added and quality of life issues that go with that. Enhancing our gift shops, even to always looking to increase our audience. Zombie night at the Cave. Kartchner Caverns is a premier cave. We're going to have a zombie run out there. For those that have younger kids, zombies a big deal. And we're going to have a zombie run out at the cave area at the park. And then after you're done running and you got a little energy out of you, then you'll actually get to go through a tour on the cave. And it's a way to get a different audience in and expose them to science without them even knowing they've been exposed to science. This is an important slide for you. This is our budget. This is how it works. At $21.5 million, the state park user revenue fund, that's the money that comes in the gate. In the past, we did not have the ability to spend that as we wanted. It went into the general fund, and then they would appropriate whatever they thought. They is the legislature. Over the last 2 years, we've been given the ability to combine all the money that comes in the gate and spend it on our parks. It is still not protected, meaning if the wheels fall off again, the legislature can come in and say, we need some money. But right now, we have a great tool available to us. You'll see that SLIF represents almost $7 million. It's almost a third of our budget. That's a big challenge for me to figure out how to make a third more in our business. I will tell you that math is a verb in state parks. We math everything. It is a business, make no mistake about it. It's a business. Parks used to be kind of like a library or a museum. It didn't matter if you made money. It was that social contract you had with society out there. That's no longer the case, like it or not. A lot of our purists out there argue vehemently that we should fund state parks, and they get really excited about it. I recognize that, and I don't disagree with that. But the rules that I have say you're not getting any money. So I got to figure out how to keep this thing moving forward because my number one mission is resource protection. And that's what we're going to continue to do. You'll see that there's some rainy day money in there. Partnerships, that 2% from partnerships includes those communities that are actually helping out running our parks. And then there's 5%. The State Historic Preservation Office actually falls underneath state parks by statute. So the money that comes in, that counts against my budget. In fact, their employees count against my full-time employee cap. I have a full-time employee cap of 169 full-time employees. So everything we do is we're very cognizant of the number of people we hire and how we spend all our money. How are we going to do this? How am I going to bridge? How am I going to take care of that 32%? How am I going to do that? We looked at hiring an outside consultant to evaluate the agency. I'm a helicopter pilot by nature, so the helicopter pilot wasn't going to figure this out. I have a bunch of very well-intentioned park rangers. Park rangers aren't going to figure this out. So we hired a company who speaks parks and who speaks money, and we looked at how we operate compared to other agencies, both in government and in the private sector. And I was very pleased to find out that we are operating about as efficiently as possible based on our current model of using partnerships, volunteers, and seasonals. A seasonal employee for us is basically a part-time employee. They work 1,500 hours a year. They get paid $12 an hour, give or take, but they receive no benefits. They wear a uniform just the same, and they come out and do a great job for us. They'll do everything from dig ditches to clean toilets to take tickets at the front gate. You can find a couple from Minnesota to come out and do some of those things. Very challenging to find a couple from Minnesota that can do all of those things on the volunteer basis. So I was pleased to see that our numbers indicate that we are equal to or greater than most private firms or companies that run parks, and we destroy the government world on our efficiency models. So I was very happy about that. We continue to try to improve, but at least lets me know we're doing things very well for government, and my job is to have us run more business-like. We're also looking at the way ahead, really dig down in what you do well, what you don't do well, and what do your customers want. So we continue to ask those questions, and that will help to guide us on our way ahead, running more like a business. We got to increase our revenue generation. We just got to make more money. How do you do that? Things like white sand on the beach. Guys like me getting out in the parks and preaching the story, telling the story, getting more interaction with our customers. That quality experience, that consistent quality experience, it's where we're headed. We need to educate our leaders throughout the state, again, on value added and what it brings to their constituents, the money that comes in. And we're also looking for, in those non-traditional funding sources, whether it be through grants or even an investment guide that talks about what you can contribute if you want to on your own. We need to develop our parks. We need to make our parks better, more profitable. In front of me is on the floor and on the slide here is a picture of Contact Point. Contact Point represents a huge revenue generating potential there in the form of marinas and boat storage. It represents enhanced safety on Lake Havasu. The congestion for those that do work on the water out there know that on a busy weekend, our boat launch is very, very congested, dangerous, not only at the launch, but try driving into the park on a Saturday morning in the middle of the summer. It's very challenging and dangerous. This provides the opportunity to generate a significant amount of revenue and provides for some safety. We have a number of other properties, one that we already have in the Verde River Greenway, a place called Rocking River. We're looking at opportunities there, and we're working with the Nature Conservancy on that. And then we're also looking at new properties. Where can you make some money to within our mission statement? Things like Fossil Creek, Bartlett Lake, and even Tovria Castle. Tovria Castle in Phoenix provides that exposure to the legislature that we so desperately need. It's not within our driving rural economies, but the money saved in the form of, I'm not going to sweep your money, that's money earned in my book. So that's where we're headed with that, and we're almost done. We are done. You have any questions about the direction in state parks and the impact that SLIF has on our organization and maybe some of continued plans to wean us off of SLIF?
Questions for Director Martin? Question? Supervisor Johnson, do you have any questions for Director Martin?
No, he covered it real well. He did a great job there.
Well, at this point, I'd like to make a motion for the discussion of funding. And I'll make that motion for discussion.
Second.
And we have a second from Supervisor Mohave. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carried. And while we have the director on the hot seat, I have a couple of questions that kind of lead into your funding mechanism, I believe. If you had the opportunity to do a lot of, with your parks, a lot of partnering with private funding, is that one of your goals, or what?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Watson, Supervisor Watson, yes. One of there are three ways that I can bridge the gap of the 32%, because that's the big thing. That's the big thing I have to. The one is I have to maximize our efficiencies, make us run as efficiently as possible, and I'm about there. Two, to get to your question, is I need to look at partnerships. I need to look at enhanced concessions on our parks. Now, concessions do not include running the park. Concessions include renting boats or selling beer or, fish bait, whatever, any of those types of things, or maybe even running a lodge, as the case may be, if the property is right. We are right now exploring, we are mathing, we have a consultant out looking at this and evaluating our inventory and seeing what's available. And you will probably see an RFP go out next year to seek a single concessionaire to concession on all our parks throughout our states. That's a great deal for us because everybody wants to help sell stuff on Lake Havasu. There's money to be made there. I tell our concessionaires, if you want the West Coast, you get the East Coast. And the East Coast includes Lyman Lake, Roper Lake, those parks that just don't have the capacity to make a lot of money. In fact, right now they don't make any money. They lose money. If I can bundle this as our good friend Senator Melvin likes to talk about, we bundle the whole thing. And my job right now is to do the math, to run the math, and let's see if the concessionaire will sign up. And once I get those business minds, those Harvard MBAs, start looking at what our potential is to raise revenues, to generate revenues in our parks, we'll start to make more money. And the third and final thing I can do is, as discussed, is find more potential properties that make money. That's really all I've got. But I still have to be true to our mission. I can't just put a water park out in the middle of something and say we're good. That's not a resource protection. So I'm always staying true to our number one mission.
Thank you, Director Martin. Would it help you in your mission as the director of the state parks if Mohave County were to take the position of requesting from our legislators that your department be funded through the general fund or other funding apparatuses, and insist that the SLIF funds be directed to those counties which actually have a designation for those previous SLIF monies? Would that be helpful to your?
Mr. Chairman, I must put a couple caveats on my comment. One, there is a Arizona State Parks Board, a 7-member body that's governor appointed. So I need to be careful when I speak on behalf of the board. In fact, Mr. Porter, as a distinguished former member of our State Parks Board, I also answer to the governor. I am a governor-appointed position now under personnel reform. The governor's office has taken no position on this. The Parks Board has taken no position on this. I will tell you that based on your need or your request for more SLIF monies, I believe that it is in the best interest of state parks to find another funding source to free up SLIF. At this point, it seems that it would be prudent to utilize some form of general fund or lottery or other monies of that sort, and it would not be unwise to ask the legislature to seek additional funding if your goal is to free up SLIF.
Thank you. Supervisor Mon.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. My allergies are a little out of whack today, so I apologize. I would say that Director Martin has done an outstanding presentation, and you are obviously a top drawer CEO, because that's essentially what you're doing when you're running this as a business model, and you're to be congratulated. And I don't want to see your funding sources go away, we're limited, but we as Mohave County, I think, need those funds for our own parks systems also. So I would make a motion that we direct staff to draft a letter for the chairman to sign for the state to initiate grant-based revenue distributions from the SLIF State Lake Improvement Fund to support government recreational activities here in Mohave County, Arizona, and at the same time suggest to the legislature that they make up the difference via the general fund and or other revenue sources.
Thank you. And I'll second the motion. Any further questions? There being no further questions, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed? Motion carried unanimously. And thank you so much for your presentation this morning. Thank you for coming to the Kingman area, and congratulations again, Brian, for the outstanding job that you do for our state parks.
Mr. Chairman, Gary, thank you very much for the opportunity. I will leave you with a box of green guides. That is our parks information. You can take it to your offices or leave it right here at the front. Continue to spread the word about state parks, because the revenue they generate are the revenues that make their way back to you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your coming. Item number 29, the discussion, possible action regarding the adoption of Board Resolutions number 2013-123, supporting the Kingman Veteran Memorial Trust participation in the Rural Veterans Coordination Project and grant application to the Department of Veterans Affairs. Motion for discussion?
So moved.
I'll second the motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Pretty simple. And I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution for supporting the Kingman Veteran Memorial Trust participation.
Second.
We have a motion to second. Any further discussion? There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Item number 30, discussion, possible action regarding the adoption of Board Resolutions number 123-125, strongly opposing the Bureau of Land Management proposed Ray Land Exchange. Request the BLM to accept Mohave County as a coordinating agency for the purposes of supplemental environmental impact, and authorize the chairman to take necessary steps for Mohave County coordinating agency status. Motion for discussion.
A motion to discuss?
We have a motion to discuss.
Second.
And a second from Supervisor Moss. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Supervisor Angus?
Well, I'm a little confused because I thought that we were at the end of this whole process. This is something that's been going on for how many years? This mine in 15 years or something?
It's almost,
And I thought that all of this has been, that's how it was presented to me. I found out about this early on when I took office. And so is there still a chance that this can be stopped? I thought it was at the end of it, the process.
we might want to address that to Supervisor Johnson. Can you answer that question?
Yes, it's my understanding it can still go through. I think there was a drop in the communications from years past that we had not filed as coordinating, and we just now noticed it, so we need to get that in there. But it still should go through Supervisor Angus.
Okay, then I'm all for that, yeah.
Okay. Supervisor Moss, you
Well, I was
like
going
to have a question?
Well, I'm going to have more of a comment about this. I believe Supervisor Angus and I both met with the Rayland folks, the mining company, who wants to take our land out of the private sector and put it into the public sector. And when I asked them, they acknowledged that we would lose revenue as a county if we did this, and the only benefit would be to our neighboring county and not to us. And I asked them flat out that if it's 10, 15, 20, whatever it is per year in property tax revenue, would they commit to donating that a similar sum to a nonprofit within Mohave County, such as Sarah's House or Interagency or anything? And they were direct with me, which I appreciate, even though I didn't like the answer, which was no. And so if there's no direct benefit to Mohave County and there's no indirect benefit to the residents of Mohave County, why in the world would we ever support this? I don't see it. I mean, we're cutting our own throat financially.
Mr. Chairman?
Supervisor Johnson.
Just for everybody might not understand, in past times, BLM never had land exchanges that went outside of the designated areas. If it was Mohave County, they found land here to exchange for land they wanted, or Pinal or those. It's just been in recent years that they've started this raiding other counties. I mean, I have no problem if it's good for Pinal County and they want to take other lands from Pinal County and trade, but just like Supervisor Moss is taking this amount of land, and even though it's not a big revenue generator at the time, I mean, we all know that land is land, and we just can't afford to give it away.
You're correct, and that's precisely the issue. If it were an inter-county transfer, and I'm not sure in what years that has changed, but it certainly would have a much more direct effect if it were happening within Mohave County, thereby having an effect on our economic situation. Any further questions?
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Certainly.
Make a motion. I move that we adopt the Board of Supervisor Resolution number 2013-125, strongly opposing the Bureau of Land Management's proposed Ray Land Exchange, request BLM to accept Mohave County as a coordinating agency for the purpose of the Supplemental Environmental Impact, SEIS, and authorize the chairman to take necessary steps for Mohave County coordinating agency status.
I second.
We have a motion and a second by Supervisor Angus. Okay. Any further questions? There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Item number 31, discussion, possible action regarding the adoption of Board of Resolutions number 2013-124 to support the full and present implementation of the Transfer of Public Lands Act or supporting the timely transfer of public lands to the state of Arizona. A motion for discussion?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second for discussion. That was seconded by Supervisor Brotherton. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Another fairly upfront proposal.
Right, it's,
Supervisor Brotherton, would you like to expound?
I would. If you guys missed the meeting Friday about our taking back of public lands, you really missed a treat. It was great. It was great. And we all know this is not going to happen overnight, and this is like a 2 or 3 page document here in front of us, so I don't think you want us to read it all,
No,
do you?
no.
But I just think that this is a resolution to get us started. There's a lot of people that are very interested in getting involved in this act, so I'll just make a motion that we accept this resolution, Resolution 2013-124, to support the full and present implementation of the transfer of our public lands back to the state of Arizona.
We have a motion from Supervisor Brotherton,
I'll second that.
second from Supervisor Angus. Questions? There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carried. Item number 32, discussion, possible action, authorize the Public Works Director to approve an application for a special event permit within Mohave County right-of-way in the Beaver Dam area. Assembly will be at the Beaver Dam High School parking lot, with the parade entering at East Rio Virgin Road, traveling to the north, Highway 91, then south exiting to the Beaver Dam store parking lot. I'll make a motion for the authorization.
Second.
Any further discussion? There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carried. Item number 33, discussion, possible action regarding the approval of hiring Ken Fielder as Chief Deputy Assessor at his current grade and current salary. Motion for discussion,
I make a motion for discussion.
and I'll second the motion. We have a motion for discussion. Supervisor Brotherton, and seconded by Supervisor Watson. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carried.
Okay. This is not a new hire by any means. He's been with the county for some time, and my computer is slow today for some reason or other. But anyway, I think that they had talked to the administrator and to our finance director on putting him at a level 22 from 21, am I correct? Or from 22 to 23. Okay. We still are going to have 2 employees. Right now we have 3, really, kind of, in level or range 22. And actually, they are reporting to each other. And I think in order to alleviate compression in the future, that probably he should be at a level 24, and the deputy appraiser at a level 23, and the deputy assessor at 22. Or no, it's another employee. I don't want to call him by name. What is his title, Ron?
Piano supervisor. That's computerized.
Oh, okay. And so then this way, they will be at different levels, because the deputy appraiser is going to be reporting to the deputy assessor. So they don't need to be in the same, on the same range. And the other one is going to be reporting to the deputy appraiser. So I just have been very conscious of this compression issue. And so I would like to make a motion, if I could, for this to go back to HR so that they can just do a compression analysis and bring it back to us at our next board meeting on October 7th to show us, and I may be off, this is just my suggestion in just looking at it, and I didn't have everything in front of me, but I still do feel like that he belongs at a higher level, that it should go up to a higher level. The 22, 23, and 24 should be the levels that they are at. So if I make that motion.
I'll second for discussion purposes.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, can we get Mr. Nicholson's opinion on that particular motion? It's his department. He's the elected assessor, and I'd like to get his input before I say yay or nay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm going to invite Ken, the subject of all this discussion, up here with me, in case there's any personal questions you have of him. Yes, sir. How can I help you?
I believe Supervisor Brotherton's motion was to table this till our next meeting, so HR can actually evaluate moving people up a level or two to reduce compression in your office. I assume that potentially would mean more pay.
No, sir.
No,
absolutely not. In fact, this whole move, whether it be 22, 23, 24, is with no increase in pay to anyone. In fact, if anything, there's going to be decreases in pay, which is why I stated in there will be a decrease in the overall budget. Ken is willing to step out here on the limb with me, and basically he's willing to do it for no increase in pay. And I cannot find another chief deputy as good as this gentleman right here.
So Supervisor Brotherton, I'm confused. Why do we want to send it back to HR then?
So they can do a compression analysis, because I may be wrong. Maybe it should be 23. And there's not any, they're not opposing these levels necessarily, but I do believe he should be higher. I believe he should be higher than a 23, but I would like for HR to just look at it and make sure that we're not going to have compression issues. Maybe he should be higher than that, but it will be without any increase in pay. But one person in the same level should not be reporting to another person in that same level.
And that is our understanding too. In other words, right now, to say, because this is what we do, I have a CAMA supervisor at 22. I have a chief appraiser at 22. It's my understanding that, and by Mr. Azuna, our HR director, has stated that one should always be higher than the other if you're reporting to him. And that's my understanding, is what he wrote. Now, taking this into consideration, we'd be talking about where the CAMA supervisor reports to the chief appraiser, who then reports directly to my chief deputy, okay, who's overseeing everything. And if you're trying to get just that portion of all this straight, that's fine. But the bottom line is, we're not talking about any increases in pay to anyone, no matter where you end up, whether it be 22, 23, 24. Mr. Fielder is saying, no, I will not take any increase. And I know the others are not going to take it, are not going to increase the pay in those levels over what they currently are. It'll be a decrease.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Nicholson, would you be okay with tabling this to the next meeting so that compression issue can be worked out?
Sure, we all try to work together, so I'm willing to do so.
I have some questions, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Johnson.
This has nothing to do with Mr. Fielder. I know he's the man that makes it look good.
We'll be watching your taxes.
I've already copied them out, so I have that for my lawsuit. Are you proposing to do away with your deputy assessor position? Are you combining Ken's current position with the deputy assessor position? Is that what you?
Oh, okay. First of all, I'm replacing. I just had a chief deputy assessor retire after 35 years with the county, Bev Payne. So we're talking about Ken stepping into Bev's position.
Okay, I guess that's the problem I have then, because, you know, this is like about a $1,000 difference. And if he's going to take over the job that Bev did at her salary, it's obviously less, I don't know, there's less responsibility, even though it is chief deputy, than what the job he was formerly doing, which he does very well. I have no doubt about that. But we have to replace him, then we're going to bring somebody else in. I mean, looking statewide, that's going to put us way out of whack, chief deputy. Got to take another job, and it doesn't require the same set of skills, then that job will just pay as much as the previous job he had. That's the problem I've had. We're going to take somebody because he was making the salary, which deserved to do a job that maybe doesn't require that high of a salary to fill. I don't know if you guys see where I'm coming from.
Okay, Supervisor Johnson, if I may. To begin with Mr. Fielder's old position, assuming this move is made, we will be hiring someone in at a pay that is substantially less than what we were paying Mr. Fielder. And we're looking really at a domino type effect, no matter where these people are coming from. But let's say they're coming from inside our office. We're talking about each person that replaces the next person is going to be paid less than that person was making. So your sum total on all this, when it's finished, is where we will be collecting less or paying out less in salaries than we currently are. Does that help?
Well, that's kind of the way I understood it, but we're paying Mr. Fielder to move up to us work at a salary and replacing him with a person who should be of equal standard to Mr. Fielder and not paying him the amount that we paid Mr. Fielder. That's the problem I'm having. We're changing the chief deputies. We're bumping that pay salary up tremendously. You know, it's up a third of what the other salary would have been. That's where I'm not understanding. I mean, I don't want to lose Ken as chief appraisers. I don't want to do.
Like I said in there, if I go outside and try to find a chief appraiser, it's going to take me 7 or 8 years to train them. Look, I went that route, all right? I was chief deputy for 8 years. And I will tell you, it takes 8 years to prepare yourself to be the assessor, if that's where you want to go to next. And just to step in and be a chief deputy, I could not have done it unless I had had Bev and even Ken's help here, and my staff's, and working me through all the steps that I had to take during those 8 years. So I feel very comfortable with this. I'll tell you, I'm excited about having Mr. Fielder as my chief deputy.
I have a comment.
Certainly.
This wasn't on the agenda to discuss salary, and Mr. Fielder has been making this salary all along. We're not going to cut his salary when he's going to be taking more responsibility. I think that where they are and the fact that they're not asking for any more money, they just want to get these levels right, because I have confidence that our economy is going to pick up. We may have to add people to the assessor's office, and we at least need to have them on the right levels so we don't have that compression issue.
Mr. Chairman?
Supervisor Moss.
If I may, I'd like to make a motion that we table this to the next meeting so Human Resources can coordinate with Ron Nicholson, our assessor, regarding alleviating the compression issue, and then bring it back to us at the next board meeting.
We have a motion?
Second.
And a second from Supervisor Brotherton. Questions? There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried, and thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for another meeting today.
A post comment, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Ken and I have to be out of the state, actually, for a conference. No, I'm sorry. Yes, we have to be out of state for a conference concerning our new software. So can we ask someone else to represent us, or one of you maybe sit there and I'll work with, and they can speak for us?
We'll take care of you, Mr.
Certainly.
Nicholson.
Okay. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much for your attendance today.